Yo, what is going on, guys? So, thank you for all the follows recently. We've got a bunch of followers, most, I believe, coming from the website. So, I wanted to go ahead and I wanted to break down a video. It's very similar to how I would do it for the website. And the type of video this is going to be all about run defense. I'm going to go into, what we're going to break down. I'm going to go into 5 different styles of run defense. I'm going to show you how to do them. And basically just, you know, go through all of them. When I think you should do it, you know, basically all the stuff you'll need to know. So, with that being said, this is going to be a website type of tip. This is not typically the type of stuff I'm going to be dropping on YouTube. Just because I don't know if you guys even like it, right? I don't drop a ton of these things for YouTube. Most of these go on the websites. But if you want something in depth like this, let me know. If you like it, if you don't like it, if you want something shorter, more to the point, we could do that. This, like I said, this is going to be a very long. It's going to be about an hour in total length. But it's going to show you every defense that you need to know and how to stop the run. Whether you play regs, mutt, salary cap, if you play CFMs, or hell, even the computer. Like, we're going to go into how to, set up your computer to play run defense for you. We'll show you how to get the computer to shoot gaps. We'll show you the meta run defenses, which you probably already know. And then we'll show you how to kind of maximize that value. And then we'll show you how to manually shoot the gaps yourself, right? So basically everything you guys are going to need to know about run defense in Madden 20 will be in this video. Please do me a favor. If you like this type of stuff, A, leave me a comment, let me know you like it. B, subscribe to the channel, right? The more subscribers I get, the more people that watch these videos, the more that I'll be able to actually do with this. So if you like my help on YouTube in terms of breaking down this stuff, do me a favor, hit that sub button. If you guys do want to catch me play on Twitch, I stream pretty much all of my weekend league games. I went 24-1 this week, choked in the final game, lost 13-6, so I ended up 24-1. I think I finished 8th. I could be wrong there. A lot of people were playing. But we've got a ton of quality content through either sub tips on Twitch, we've got stuff on YouTube, we got stuff on MaddenDaily.com. So if you guys are still interested in Madden 20, you still want that additional content, make sure to, help us out. So catch you guys here in a couple seconds. We'll get into the intro for the run defense. Yo, what is going on, guys? So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down the 5 versions of run defense in Madden 20. Now, a lot of you guys already know, how to run Edge Blitz 1 and how to run the 3-3-5 wide and all of that, right? But what I want to do with this in this video is I want to go ahead and I want to explain to you how you utilize these defenses in the grand scheme of things. Anybody can pick up a play and run it, and when it works, it works. When it doesn't, it doesn't. But the thing that I think a lot of people don't get on these typical YouTube videos is the true thought process about how you'll utilize it in a game. A lot of these tips that you see and you run across on YouTube are basically one-offs, right? To where, put up a flashy headline, say, hey, the best run defense ever, Madden 20. You get a bunch of likes, it gets a bunch of views, you run it, and it works great until it doesn't. And then you have no answer for how to counter it. And that's because there's not, especially in this game, right? But even in all Maddens, right? There's not one specific run defense that works against everything. And there's not one run defense that you want to run for every scenario. Like, the run defense you want to run on a 4th and 1 in overtime is going to be a lot different than the run defense that you want to run on 1st and 10 on the opening drive of the game, right? Like, you don't need to sell out against every single run to stop it. And that's where I think a lot of people make their mistakes, is they'll play aggressive run defense. I consider it aggressive run defense, and they'll run it the whole game. And against some people it's going to work, and against others it's not. Or it's going to work a little bit, but then they'll get beat with the pass, or they'll make one misclick with their user, and then their run defense that was working is now a crib shot. So The 5 defenses that I'm going to break down, and I'm actually going to break down more than 5, but the 5 different concepts that I'm going to be breaking down are going to be as follows, right? We're going to talk about a bend but don't break type of run defense. And for that, it's going to be the 3-3-5 normal / big nickel over G. That defense is mainly geared at putting your players in positions to shed, where you're going to make sure that you don't get outflanked, and you're just going to rely on you playing your user to play cleanup, right? You're going to get a lot of sheds. It's going to be great pass defense. Now, are you going to hit them in the backfield for, a loss of 2-3 yards when they run the ball? No, but you should be able to hold them to that 2-yard, 3-yard range to the point where they're going to be on those key 4th downs throughout the course of a game. The other defense, the second one I'm going to talk about, is going to just be coverage-based run defenses. And that's going to really get into the 3-4 odd formation and the different ways that you can run it. The next one is going to be computer gap shoots, where you're trying to send the computer AI defender through a gap to where he'll make a play. These defenses are really good against most people, but sometimes, especially good runners, they know how to stop them from coming up the gaps. So those are just one of those things that you have to learn throughout the course of a game, whether or not you can run those type of defenses. But they are good because, like I said, the computer will shoot the gap. They'll tackle the running back in the backfield. Your user has to do basically nothing. Now, there is a downside to those because, once again, if they do know how to pick that up, there's a chance that you get gashed. I mean, and there's just... It's one of those things where either they're going to pick up a decent gain or they're going to lose 2, 3, 4 yards. It's kind of that middle ground to where if you can afford to give up the yards and you want to really put them behind the sticks in terms of, down and distance, you can do that. These are probably the least used defense for me, just because I tend to go straight from coverage-based run defenses straight to the aggressive run defense, which is going to be the next one. And this is going to be your heavy run Ds, right? Like your edge blitz 1, your 2-man under at a 3-3-5 wide, to where you're basically saying, all right, I'm tired of you running the ball on me. Like, when I go to those defenses, it's, all right, let's man up, let's pass the ball, let's have some fun. Like, enough of this, nonsense where we're just going to run every play. That's pretty much where I go straight from my bend but don't break / coverage-based run defenses. I tend to shoot over the gap shoots, but I know a lot of people still use them, and they are still very effective when used correctly. And then finally, the last thing we're going to talk about is going to be the manual gap shoot. So, like, when you're just absolutely fed up of stopping the run, like, and you just want them out of the run completely, like, you don't even want to sit there and, play, the containment game with your safety. The manual gap shoot defense is one of those that you can go to in key situations to where if you need to stop them, say it's a 2nd and 1, or excuse me, a 3rd and 1 or a 4th and 1, you can say, all right, like, now we've had enough. If you run this ball, you're losing yards and I'm taking back possession. So those are going to be the defenses that I cover in this video, and let's get into it. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and get into the first version of run defense, and this is my base defense. And this is going to be a defense that is generally geared at keeping the numbers advantage on your side to where you should get a lot of sheds, and you're perfectly okay with allowing them to pick up, 1, 2, 3 yards. But just knowing that all it takes is for them to get shedded one time to where now they're in a passing situation. These defenses that I'm going to be showing this out of are going to be the 3-3-5 normal and also the big nickel over G. And these defenses are generally just geared at putting your AI defenders in the best positions to stop the run by themselves. Now, that does revolve a little bit on luck, right? You do rely on block shed. You do rely on the computer making plays and abilities and stuff like that. But what it does is it basically frees up your user. Your user being freed up to where you're not going to get blocked makes it so much easier to stop the run because all you have to do is flow to the ball carrier. right? You don't have to try to shoot a gap. You don't have to worry about, oh, sprinting downhill right away to stop a dive or a stretch or anything like that, right? So first thing we're going to talk about is going to be 3-3-5 normal. This is my base defense for any of you guys that have watched me stream. I pretty much dead almost every run in the game with this defense. Now I use, as you guys can see, by the play call screen, I pretty much call cover 3 sky drop every play. Like, if I'm not in cover 3 sky drop, I'm in loop crash 2. Occasionally cover 4 drop, but for the most part, I'm in cover 3 sky drop every play. So, let's go ahead, we'll call that. Now, I use this defense against any passing set, right? So if they're coming out in gun bunch or anything like that, I use it. But I also use this against your I-form close, your strong close, your weak flex, near close flex, excuse me. Basically anything to where they have a solid running game, but I also know that generally good players are going to want to pass out of, right? So, like, for instance, strong close is a dominant passing formation. I-form close is a little bit more run-oriented, I guess would be the word I'm looking for, because you do have the dive and the stretch, but most people that are running this, at a good level at least, are running a lot of PA tight end leak. They're running a lot of wide receiver out. They're running Y post if they see man coverage. So, like, they have multiple passing options to where they can pick up chunk yards. And that's really what I'm just trying to limit by running these style of defenses, right? So I'm going to come out in the stretch. I'm going to show you this against the run, how this works, why this works, and then we'll move on to the next one, okay? So here's the stretch. I've got the dive set of my audibles just so we can audible quickly over to that. But what you want to do with the 3-3-5 normal, and it's the exact same thing with big nickel over G, is you see how you have your safeties in the box, right? So you got this safety right here. You got this safety right here. I guess this one of them is technically a corner. I think this one's a corner. But basically, what you do is you have two people already in the box. So you have the 3D linemen, the 3 linebackers, and then you have the 2 defensive backs. So what we can do is, if we shift our defensive line to the strong side of the field, which is basically in this scenario going to be whichever way the tight end is, we've now created an advantage on our side no matter which way they run. So let me go ahead and just showcase this, right? So say the guard right here blocks Bosa. That's going to leave the tackle blocking this linebacker. Fullback or the receiver is going to block this guy. Whichever one doesn't block this guy will block this one over here. So basically what it does is it frees up the fact that if nobody sheds whatsoever, there's nobody at all to block us with our user, right? So if we flow over here, we can stop this in the backfield, unless we get trucked or something crazy like that happens, right? And this is where you typically want to put your guy that has enforcer, tackle supreme, stuff like that. Lurker. But as you saw the left side, you have the numbers advantage. Same thing with the right. Guard's going to block this defensive tackle. Tackle will block this linebacker. Tight end blocks this guy. And then one of these is the fullback. The other is the receiver. It means as long as we flow over, we will have a one-on-one shot with the running back. So as you can see, right off the bat, with no other adjustments, our players are in position to win. Now, you can make this a little bit better. What I like to do is I press coverage. Now, since I've moved some of these players around, they're not going to actually do that. But then I'll take like the slot guys and move them in slightly just to force the fullback to pick this guy up, right? Same thing on this side. The other thing I like to do is, if I think they're running, I'll blitz that middle linebacker, and I crash my defensive line up. So this is how your coverage looks. You'll essentially have only 4 people rushing. But what will happen is, as we go ahead and just run the stretch, you'll see that you're able to flow, and there's nobody to pick you up, as you saw right there. Like, nobody to pick up your user. And now we'll do the same thing to the left side, right? So A lot of the times they'll see you shifting your line over. They'll go ahead, they'll do the same thing. But you'll see, once again, they go to this side over here. There's nowhere to go. And then that right there is the perfect example of if you actually do get block shed, now instead of them gaining 1, 2, 3 yards, now they're picking up -2, -3. So now they've ran the ball twice. They're 3rd and 10, right? 3rd and 9, something along those lines. Now they're in those passing situations to where we theoretically, Madden 20 is a different type of beast with some of these demons, but those are passing downs. So like you can expect your opponent not to come out in I form tight, for instance, on that down. But that's just the first general defense I wanted to talk about. And it's really that simple. Like there's no other adjustments. You adjust your coverage to play the pass. You shift your defensive line to the strong side of their formation. And then if you want to, you can blitz that middle linebacker. And that's just going to help against the dives and stuff like that, right? So let's go ahead and show that real quick, and then we'll move along. So as I mentioned, you would want to blitz the middle linebacker if you're expecting it to be a dive. And what this does, I got to move him back. What this does is it tends to just make the fullback block him, right? So the fullback theoretically will block this guy, allowing us to come in free. Now, it's pretty much impossible for me to manually play the dive and also run the ball. So I'm just going to put my safety right there into a spy. Hopefully he'll actually react, and you'll get a good picture of how this works. So you'll see there's nowhere to really go. Like I broke a tackle, I spun off a tackle, and still only picked up 2 yards. Go ahead, we'll show it one more time. And it's, like I said, like it's simple. It's not a hard defense to run by any means. You start putting pass players on there, like pass rush players, pass rushing players, like pass rush elite and stuff like that. It's going to make it to where your opponent's not even going to be able to, fake the run and utilize these formations to pass out of. That time I actually forgot to audible to the dive, so let's go ahead and go back to it. That was the stretch, as you saw, get blown up. So we're good again. Make sure I've audible to the dive, which I have. And as you see, nowhere really to go, right? I mean, I got hit at the line of scrimmage, gained 3-4 yards. And that's best case scenario for them. Now, with that being said, there will be situations to where you want to get into other sets. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to show you one more clip about how this works with big nickel over G, and then we're going to get into what I consider to be the coverage-based run defenses. And really, there's only one. There's one, in my opinion, coverage-based run defense, and we'll get into that next. So, last thing I want to talk about was going to be this big nickel over G. For the most part, people are going to run the dive, the off tackle, out of strong close. But big nickel over G is going to be the exact same way. Now, make sure you've got, decent pass rushers out there, but you're going to come out and cover 3 sky. Shift your D-line to the side you think they might be running to. So it looks like this. And once again, I mean, you can just see that you've got the numbers advantage. Your safety is going to be in the middle of the field. And keep in mind, that's key. You need your safety in the middle of the field. If your safety is over here, and this is your user, if they run to the left, you will not be fast enough to catch up to them. It doesn't matter how fast you are. You will not be fast enough to catch up to them. So take your user, and this is something that I try to tell everybody. Take your user, put them in the middle of the field. That way you can flow to the left, you can flow to the right, you can drop back, you could jump down immediately, play something underneath. Like, if you are on a specific side of the field with your user, you can only guard that specific side of the field. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes people make. So, anyways, back to the point. Center has the defensive tackle. Guard has the linebacker. Defensive end has the offensive tackle. Other way around. This guy should be free. This guy's got the corner, right? So, to the left, technically we have the advantage with the one person already, not counting user. So, same thing to the right though, right? So you got defensive tackle on the center, linebacker on guard, tackle on the defensive tackle. This guy right here on the tight end, fullback to guard this one, receiver to guard this one, meaning anytime we flow to the right, there's nobody there to block us. It should be an easy tackle on the running back. So, just like you saw, I think this is off tackle. See, that gets blown up pretty easy. We'll go to the dive real quick. Go ahead, move this dude out. All right, set up, good to go. Here's the dive. As you can see, he trucked somebody to pick up 4 or 5 yards, but like I said, that's just the general idea behind the defenses, right? You're putting your players to where they have the numbers advantage. Now, if you're in big nickel over G and you want to stop the dive out of this, you can blitz either of these 2 middle linebackers and it'll do the same. So like you could blitz him, and we'll audible back to the dive, and this just makes it to where your user has less responsibility, right? So, well, Jesus, he ended up hitting me with a super cut to the left, but as you saw, up the middle was pretty much bagged. You see, fullback gets the linebacker there that we blitzed. Nobody's got this linebacker to the left. Nobody has this guy right over here. Safety coming down. It's like, as you saw, if he doesn't make this amazing cut that only the computer can make, he's hit at the line of scrimmage for a loss of a yard. So that's going to be it for the bend but don't break defenses. Let's get into the coverage-based defense next. All right, guys, so now we're going to go ahead. We're going to get into the coverage-based portion of the run defense, and it honestly is one play and one play only, and that's going to be the cover 4 drop show 2. Now, I put this play in its own separate category because it is a very good defense in its own right, but you have a lot of flexibility with it, and you can basically take this defense and make it into an aggressive style run defense. You can leave it as a coverage-based run defense, or you can utilize it to shoot gaps. Now, you can kind of use this defense in every sense of the term, run D, and it's kind of frowned upon in a degree because it's kind of more associated with, lesser end players, because people tend to just sit in this and set their controller down and, just let the computer play for them. But it's a really good run defense, and it's definitely something that I think you should be using. Mainly because I think it is solid against most formations. Like it'll give up a couple yards here and there, but it's extremely good against one specific offense. And the one offense that it is extremely good against is going to be these wing tight U type of offenses, right? Basically, if they've got 3 tight ends on the line of scrimmage, like you see here at a wing tight U, wing tight, this is a defense that I go to. Just because you're going to be able to stop the run, and you're not going to have to blitz anybody. You're going to have to basically just kind of flow with your user, but once again, we're going to be putting our players into positions to where they're not going to be able to just run the ball on us. They're not going to be able to run dives. They're not going to be able to run stretches. They're going to have to either pass out of these sets and, beat us passing, or they're going to have to get up out of these sets. And I say that because these offenses typically are very good at countering the run defensive metas, right? Like the aggressive style run defenses, the edge blitz ones and storm brave ones and stuff like that, right? So like these offenses definitely have a place in the meta. Like good players that know how to pass out of these sets are, can be very difficult to defend. So instead of trying to, fit that square peg in the round hole, in essence of trying to stop these type of offenses with the edge blitz or the 3-3-5 or anything like that, I go to cover 4 drop show 2. It's the easiest and most successful way that I personally stop these. Now, I've got the dive stretch already set up, so we're going to call stretch first. Setup is going to be very simple, right? You're just going to pinch your linebackers. That's all you have to do. Now, what you want to do, though, is you want to move players around to give them, their best chance of stopping the run. So, in order to do that, against this set, we want to press. This safety, we want to just bring down and put him on that tackle, or excuse me, that tight end. So now you can just look at the numbers, right? So you see the receivers got the corner out here, tight end on the outside linebacker, tackle on the defensive end, middle linebackers on the guards, defensive tackle on the center, this guy's on the right tackle, and so forth, right? So you see you've got technically one person free on the right. If they were to run the ball to the left, we would flow over there. There'd be nobody to block us. That's the general concept. Now, once again, you want to take your user, put your user in the center of the field. This is the most important thing that you can do in terms of run defense. Now, no matter which way they run, whether they run to the right, the left, or they go up the middle with a dive, you should theoretically have the numbers advantage with your user. So we'll go ahead, we'll run the ball to the right. You'll see you just kind of flow. Now Zeke just broke the tackle right there, and I wasn't able to, utilize both controllers. So let's go ahead and do it again. All right, so here we go. Stretch again to the right. You see, pretty easy, right? Like, theoretically, we have a guy that is unblocked on the right-hand side. As long as you move this guy down, there's nobody to block Sherman. Now, where it gets a little bit more stressful for your user is to the left, because now the only person that doesn't have a blocker is going to be you. So you see, go to the left, boom, you make the tackle manually. Simple as that. Now, a lot of people get their user messed up because people will start mixing in the dives and the stretches and all that, right? So they don't know which side to go to. So if your opponent was to run a dive on this, this is where you kind of just concede the fact that they may get a couple yards, right? So like they may pick up 3, 4, 5 yards. But for the most part, if they run the dive, they're going to get hit for a gain of 2, 3 yards. Now right there, my safety, my user did absolutely nothing. And that was just because I can't use both controllers, right? So you just take your safety, put him into a spy. Yeah, you could even technically click off the guy if you wanted to, which I'm going to do. Let's play on the defensive tackle. So this is how it'll look if they're running the dive. See, boom. They gained 2 yards, maybe. Maybe after he fell forward, 2.5. So, I mean, you can see, just based on numbers advantage alone, they're not going to have anywhere to run the ball out of this. Now, are they going to stretch? Could they pick up a couple yards there? Yeah, they might get a couple, 2 to 3 yards. If they run dive, are they going to pick up a big gain? No, but could they pick up a couple yards, in that 2 to 3 range? Yeah, it's possible. They could also get block shedded instantly and lose yards. Like, it's one of those things. Now, this is kind of difficult to show in regs, but if you play Mutt, if you go on Mutthead and you look at the D-line spin move, if they have the spin move for the defensive linemen, these outside linebackers will spin move the tight ends. And so they'll basically spin move and they'll come in free. But they have to have that ability, and I don't know who has it in regs and who doesn't. So I can't really showcase that. But I know for Mutt, I use Clowney and I use Myles Garrett. Both of those guys spin move instantly. So you'll be able to just completely dead any outside run. So your user in Mutt only has to worry about the dive, which is rather easy to shoot, in that sense. So that's going to be the coverage-based run defense. Now, say for whatever reason you're sticking in this run defense and they want to, constantly no huddle. Say they get stuck on a 4th down. I mentioned that you could do this, so I wanted to talk about it really quick. Basically, if that scenario happens, say it's a 4th and 1 and they've just no huddled and you get stuck in this defense, you can then take your user and you can do the pinch D line, spread linebackers, blitz linebackers look, and then you just move the guy down, put him into a spy. It'll look just like that. And you'll see this same exact setup that we use when I go over the aggressive run defenses. But now when they do this, you'll see, like, there's nowhere to go. This is going to be one of those defenses that's extremely aggressive to stop the run, while also you have the ability to be flexible, and that's the thing I like about the 3-4 odd cover 4 drop show too. So I think it's definitely something for you guys to mix in, right? So now that's enough of that. Let's go ahead and talk about the computer gap shoots, and that's going to be the next coming up next. All right, guys. So now we're going to take a look at our gap shoot defenses, and this is going to specialize on the computer gap shoots. And with this defense, you have to kind of understand a couple things, right? This defense can be amazing. 100% can be amazing if the linebacker shoots in free and you can tackle them in the backfield pretty easy, right? The downside to this is if your opponent knows how to pick these up, you can get gashed, because whereas typically you're utilizing your safety to play containment, with this you have to play closer to the line of scrimmage with your safety to trigger the gap shoot. So there's a higher chance that you'll be blocked by, a fullback, a tight end, or something like that, that makes it more difficult to get around in order to, play that containment role with your safety. So this is one of those high risk, high reward type of defenses. Now, like I said, with that being said, it is a very good run defense. You can utilize this in those aggressive type of run defense styles if you wanted to. It's kind of similar, to be honest. It's just a little bit different. This is pretty much going to be one of those defenses. Either they are losing 3 yards, 3, 4, 5 yards, or they're gaining a big play. There's not much middle ground, right? There's not much going to, 2-3 yard gains out of this. I'll put it that way, right? Either they're going to lose a lot of yards or they're going to gain yards. It's no middle ground. So the defenses you can utilize this with are going to be Storm Brave 1, Cover 3 Buzz Buck, Cover 4 Quarters. Those are going to be the 3 plays that you can use. Now, these are situational run defenses. Like I said, if you are in a situation where you need to knock a person out of field goal range, that's when you would ideally go to a defense like this, right? So end of half, end of game scenario, they're trying to run the ball, just take their field goal. This is the time to utilize this defense. So what you want to do is you always want to come out in Storm Brave 1, because what happens is it takes this linebacker and it puts him up closer than the normal linebacker level. After that, if you wanted to, you can audible out, right? You could audible with Cover 3 Buzz Buck. You see that he stays in the same spot. Cover 4 Quarters, all of them stay in the same, right? So they stay just like that. So Storm Brave 1 is going to be what you come out in. The setup is to just blitz all your linebackers, and then you want to take your safety and put him in the gap at this linebacker level, right? So once you're in the gap in this area, you want to crash your defensive line down. And then, for instance, if they run the stretch, as you see, that linebacker comes in free. Now, that's Fred Warner. He has a lurker. He doesn't have enforcer, tackle supreme, nothing like that. But as you saw, he came in just untouched. So this is how you can blow up these runs in the backfield. We're going to go ahead and do it again. Like I said, it's a very, very simple concept once you know how to do it. You just crash your defensive line down, blitz all your linebackers, and then the key to making the guy come in is you need to be at this linebacker level, right? So if you're in this linebacker level, you flow over, he's going to come in and tackle the running back in the backfield every single rep. Like, it's going to be consistent. The downside to that, if they know how to pick it up, and I'm not going to go into how to pick it up here in this video, but there are ways to pick it up. If they know how to pick it up, it could be a big gain. Same thing if they were to run the ball to the other side of the field. You should have really good containment. We'll go ahead, do the same thing here. See, boom. That time, it got blocked perfectly. Like, we weren't able to get over there. So like that was a great example of, what can happen. So let's go ahead and do it again. This time I'm going to audible to Cover 4. Move that linebacker back. So we're going to go ahead. So that time you saw he came in free. Now, I don't know who Greenlaw is. He ideally wouldn't be playing. But as you see right here, he's going to come in the gap. He shoots free. He's just too slow to make the tackle, takes bad pursuit, all that fun stuff. So we end up with the safety hitting Zeke at the line of scrimmage. If Greenlaw had any sort of ability at all, he would have had him in the backfield. So when you run this style of a defense, ideally you put on your middle linebackers tackle supreme on both of these guys. If you have tackle supreme or enforcer on both of these linebackers, this can be a dominant run defense, like a defense that you could be in every play of the game. And the thing that's good about it is, whereas your other aggressive style run defenses are kind of weak against the halfback dive, this one, as you see right here, if they run the dive, the outside linebacker is going to come in free, right? So boom. The dive is a loss of yards every rip. So the dive is a loss of yards. The stretch is most of the time going to be a loss of yards. And if they were to try to pass, so say they did something like this, right, where they just tried to pass the ball, you're sending essentially like the pinch type of look, right? I mean, the difference is basically non-existent. But if they try to do that, like they're going to get instantly screamed at. So this is it basically has a purpose in the sense of, if you need to knock your opponent out of field goal range, or you're just in that scenario to where you can't mentally give up that extra yard for whatever reason, then you can go to this style of defense. To maximize it, you do want both of those middle linebackers to have abilities. You want your tackle supremes, you want your enforcers, stuff like that. Good defenses, like I said though, the downside is if they do break containment and you don't come in free and they know how to pick it up, it can be a big play. So you just gotta be prepared for that. It's like they may lose yards every rep and then all of a sudden break a 70-yarder. Like that's what happens against these style of defenses. But yeah, cover 3 Buzz Buck, Storm Brave 1, cover 4 quarters at a 3-4 odd all act the exact same way. The only difference is obviously whether you're in man, cover 3, or cover 4. But the key to it is you do want to come out in Storm Brave 1 every single time. So that's pretty much it on the computer gap shoot style of a defense. Now we're going to get to what is more meta, and that's going to be these aggressive style run defenses. And then we'll finish this up with the manual gap shoots. All right, guys. So now we're taking a look at the aggressive style of run defenses that you can use, and these are going to be your more traditional ones that you see online. And this is going to be Edge Blitz 1, Pinch Dog 3, which I don't think a lot of people know about, but you can utilize them the same way. So if your opponent is in these eye tights, strong wings, all that type of stuff, these are great against those. And you can use them against other things too. They're just not optimal, I would say. But for instance, like strong tight, right? So you can come out Edge Blitz 1. The general setup is pinch D-line, crash down, spread linebackers, blitz all linebackers, contain. So like this is going to be how it looks, right? So now if they run, theoretically, you can hit them in the backfield just like that. Very common thing. I'm not, breaking news, right, with these aggressive run defenses. Now, a lot of people struggle with the concept of people flipping and motioning and all that stuff to beat the man coverage. Well, if they're doing that, run Pinch Dog 3. Pinch Dog 3 is a zone version of it. It has the same exact look, right? It's the exact same look. They may try to, flip your formation. So say they do something like, trying to think of a good way to flip. So say they went with this right here. You would catch people doing stuff like this to where they could flip. You see how the safety went back? Well, that generally would work against the man coverage, but we're in the zone. So he's not going to fly all the way over. Just move him back down. It's that simple. Now, I had bad users, so, like I said, it's difficult for me to do a video like this where I'm, without editing it, that is going to showcase the run defense that relies on my user if I'm using two controllers. So as you see, once again, here's your standard edge blitz, blows up the stretch. The weakness of the edge blitz is basically what happened a couple clips ago, where if you misplay the dive, you can run into a lot of issues. So go ahead, we're going to go to the dive. Now I'm putting my safety into a spy to kind of just mimic how this should work. And that's pretty much how it should work right there, where you get a bunch of good sheds, your safety, which your user is kind of playing containment in a sense, but also being aggressive. So like, see how the safety kind of like shoots towards the line of scrimmage? This is what you want to initially do with your user. But then instead of just like blindly running into a hole, you kind of want to just stay there, because at this point, if you look at the running back, right? The running back's not going to be able to get to the outside. He's not going to be able to get to the left or the right. So he's going to have to try to find a hole in the middle of the field. Generally, it's going to be this hole right here between 70 and the fullback. Like generally, that's where they're going to want to go. But they could also bounce it right here. So if you overplay with your safety and shoot this gap right here, and they bounce it off tackle to where they're going to be running between the fullback and Witten, they could pick up a big play. And your good and your smart runners, they're going to be utilizing the dive against this style of defense because they know this stretch isn't going to work. So that's pretty much what they're going to be doing. But like I said, the thing that I wanted to talk about here is, this is how you set it up, right? That's kind of the point of the video. But I wanted to also show you that you can run pinch dog 3, set it up the exact same way. You're going to get the exact same containment and all that stuff. But then you can take the safety and put him into a spy. And this is just going to be even better run defense, right? So now, whether they run the dive, the stretch, whatever the case may be, you'll see that you're going to be able to make that tackle. Now, once again, utilizing the two controllers, pretty much impossible for me to, get picture perfect clips every time. But as you can see with your user, there's an easy lane for me to shoot right here, right? I mean, like, with one hand, I'm in the backfield trying to make a tackle. Now, like, if that's tackle supreme, enforcer, anything like that, that's a blown up run. And that's against the run that's going to work against this style of run defense. So you can just see, that's the way that I like to use this. When they run these dives, like I said, you kind of got to be aggressive with your user, because you're going to have to make people miss. You're going to have to make the fullback miss. You're going to have to make the center miss. Not necessarily the center. The fullback or a random tight end or receiver. But you're playing kind of aggressive, as you see there. Like, if I'm using two hands, that's a tackle for a gain of 1. So that's your Edge Blitz 1, Pinch Dog 3. You guys know about that, I'm sure, already. And then the last one I wanted to talk about in this category is going to be your 3-3-5 wide, which is very meta now as well. It's going to be cover 2 man is the one that people mostly use, and the setup is going to be basically the same, where you're some people spread, some people pinch their D line. I personally like to pinch, and then you put both safeties into spies. You want to always shade your coverage to the outside, so Sherman or your corner will line up over them. And then you want to shade over the top so they don't get beat deep. And then you're just going to take this guy and play containment, right? Basically as if he was another safety. And as you see, like, the run is very, very difficult to, run against this. Now, there are specific runs that will work, like counters and stuff like that. But your typical dive stretch combination is really going to struggle with this. Now, the downside to this is a lot of people are very good at passing the ball from these under center sets, especially the I-form closes. The strong close is a perfect example, right? You cannot run this defense against strong close. Like, you will just get absolutely torched against strong close running this. So your options are either to get out of it and go to one of the bend but don't breaks or the coverage based defenses, or you can use the cover 4. So let me show you that real quick. So at a 3-3-5 wide, the main reason it works is you're putting both safeties into spies. So you can utilize the cover 4 and just know that you have deep responsibility, right? So say they're coming out, like I said, you can't run this against strong close. Or you can't run the 2-man under against strong close. But you can run the cover 4. So say you're putting both safeties and spies to stop the run. Now with this guy, you have to know your responsibility is this deep area of the field. You are essentially a middle third at this point. Now with that, you can do whatever you want, right? You can put this guy into a hook. You could make your coverage adjustments however you want. But say they run the ball, you're going to see like there's nowhere to go because of the safeties and the spies. But you still have to have that mental awareness to know that you can't be aggressive with this middle linebacker, because if it's a play action and they catch you slipping, it's going to be a 99 speed receiver right over the top of you. And that's what you see a lot of people doing, right? I mean, like that's one of the very popular tactics right now, especially in MUT. So that's going to be it for the aggressive portion of the run defense. I categorized both of these as aggressive style because with edge blitz 1, pinch dog 3, you're basically blitzing everybody, right? You're blitzing 7 and only have 3 people manned up in edge blitz. And then you have your user, obviously. Pinch dog 3, you're blitzing 7, you're putting a spy out there. And then 3-3-5 wide 2-man under is an aggressive style run defense because of the fact that you have no help over the top. You're basically at the mercy of anybody that passes the ball. You just kind of got to hope that pressure comes in. So can it work? Yes. I mean, obviously it's a very good defense. It's a very dominant run defense. But there's weaknesses to it. 3-3-5 wide's weakness is it's very easy to pass on. 3-4 odd, the edge blitz 1, the pinch dog 3, the weakness is the dive, right? If you don't play with good leverage, like with your user, and good containment, you can get, okey doked where a dive can go right up the middle for a big play. So that's the main thing I wanted to focus on, right? Like all of these defenses that I'm breaking down have things that they are great against. They have things that they're not so great against. They have different elements, right? Like the computer gap shoot, perfect defense for end of half, or end of game where you need to knock somebody out of field goal range. Is it going to be something you should run all game? God, no. Because if you run it all game, yes, you may stop them 2-3 drives in a row, but then they're going to bust a 70-yard run on you. Or the coverage-based run defense, like the 3-4 odd drop show 2. Is it a perfect defense? No, because you say you're in a 3-score game, right? Or a 3-point game. They got the ball. They can drive down the field. All they need to do is kick 3. You can't afford to sit in a coverage-based run defense. Because you can't let them take 3 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards, all the way up and down the field. You have to get aggressive at some points, right? The bend but don't break, kind of similar, right? I'll go bend but don't break until I get them into a 4th down. But as soon as they're in that 4th and 1, or 4th and 2, or 3rd and 1, something like that, I switch it up. I go from bend but don't break to aggressive very quickly. So the last thing that I want to talk about is going to be the manual gap shoot defenses. And I left this for last because this does require solid user. And I'll go ahead and I'll showcase how this works, and we'll talk about it in the next little clip that I do. But this is going to be a much more advanced style of defense that I don't think a lot of people should use. I just want to go ahead and put that out there. If you play the game a lot, you have good defensive user, you have good stick skills, you can definitely use the manual gap shoot defenses. However, if you don't, these manual gap shoot defenses can give up big plays in a hurry. So let's go ahead and get into that next. All right, guys, so last defense we're going to talk about are going to be the gap shoots, and this is going to be a manual gap shoot. And you can do this out of a couple different formations, one being 3-4 odd. The play is pinch dog 2 press. That is Master Gamer's defense. It's widely considered his defense. You can do it out of 5-2. which is Fire Zone 2 or Pinch. Um, that is made popular by BG Fam on Twitch. And then the one that I really like is out of 3-4 Solid, and it's the Strike Spy 2. So let's go ahead and just show you how this works, and we'll talk about the main principles of how and why it works, and why it's not the best run defense, but it's definitely something you can use. So we're just going to come out in strong tight, for example, stretch dive. Now, 3-4 Solid, Strike Spy 2, all you want to do is you want to pinch your linebackers, QB contain, crash your defensive line down, right? So that's going to be how it looks. Now, what you want to do is you just want to take this linebacker right here, whichever one the strong side is on. And basically, if you think the run's going to the right, you'll user this guy right here, and you'll shoot through the gap and tackle the running back in the backfield. If you think it's going to the left, then you would stand on the other middle linebacker and do the same thing. Now, that's kind of where this defense becomes very hit or miss. Either you're going to blow them up in the backfield, or you rely on your user to play containment from the linebacker level, which is not the easiest thing to do in this game. So just to show you how this works, you see, boom, you run to the backfield, tackle them, easy loss, right? I mean, they lost 5 yards right there. I'm going to go to the replay just to show it to you really quick. I mean, it doesn't require much user skill to shoot this gap. All you're doing is basically running straight down. You'll see nobody really reacts to you. You kind of just swoop in, tackle the running back. I mean, that's a loss of 5 yards. Now, like I said, if they were to run the ball to the other side, so say they ran it to the left, same setup that you would use, except you would play on this other linebacker, stand right here, shoot down through that gap. Now, I don't know how fast that linebacker was that I just tried to use. It felt like he was moving in quicksand. So I'm going to try it again. I may have to sub him out. I don't know who he is. But crash D-line down, pinch linebackers. We're going to flip the play. We're going to stand right here. And you see, even with whoever that guy is, we were able to hit him in the backfield. So you can do it to both sides, right? It's very simple, very easy. The downside to it is if your opponent knows you're trying to shoot the gap, they could intentionally run away from you if they have identifier. If they run away from you, it is a lot more difficult to shoot the gap because you can't, at that point, hit them for a loss, really. And I'll go ahead and I'll showcase this to you. Let me just sub this guy out because I don't know who he is. But go ahead, same thing. Against a formation like wing close flex, right, to where they could go both directions with the stretch. You know, if you're sitting on this side over here, you're good because you can blow this side up. But if they flip the run to the left, you now have to play containment from a linebacker level. And as you see, like, that was the computer controlling the running back, and it took me forever to get to him. Now imagine if that running back's a Bo Jackson or a, 98 speed Eric Dickerson, something like that, right? So there's definitely perks to a defense like this because you can blow up the runs. If you have a crazy fast middle linebacker, like in Mutt, it's much better there than it is in regs. You could do something like this, or if your opponent just runs the same thing over and over again, right? So like say they come out in the set and they only run to the tight end side. Well, you could blow that up. I mean, you could stand in this right here and shoot down and tackle the running back in the backfield. Like, that was technically bad user by me trying to use both controllers, and I still hit him in the backfield. So, like, if you know where they're going, you can blow the run up very easy this way. But if you don't know where they're going, or more importantly, if they see what you're trying to do and they know how to counter it, then it becomes a can you catch up to me sprint to the sideline. Is that always going to work? No, right? Because you can still block shed. Like, if you block shed and they run away from you, then they're going to get tackled for a loss regardless. So it's definitely one of those defenses. It's very good. This one, I don't necessarily know where I would use it situationally in the grand scheme of things. But if you know your opponent is running a specific direction, like say they don't mix it up, they're only going to run the stretch this way, they're only going to run the dive this way, you can blow it up this way. And this is a very, advanced, technically, like it's an advanced thing because you're blowing something up with a user. But it's not hard. It's not hard to do. So yeah, like I said, it's something I wanted to go ahead and talk on. That was at a 3-4 solid. I'll show it to you at a 5-2. I can't really show you the master defense out of the 3-4 odd, but basically what he does out of this is he'll come out, pinch everybody, hover in this gap to where he's basically offsides, and then he'll loop around. Like he'll shoot down through that B gap. Very good. He knows how to blow up basically every single run this way. But it does require different crashes and different, like moving a safety down and blitzing him against this formation, that formation. And I'm not going to get into all that for this video. Like I said, we'll be here for an additional hour if I go through it, go into all that. 5-2 is, like I said, VG Fam's defense. And this is one of those things where it works. I just would prefer to do it out of 3-4. Like I said, I mean, you can do the same concept here. We'll go ahead, we'll come out and stretch. Spread linebackers, crash defensive line down. Contain. Then you just, with your user, just sprint straight down. Tackle them in the backfield. Very simple, very easy to do. 5-2 might be better overall in terms of stopping the run this way. I personally won't give up 3-3-5 to have 5-2. That's just the way I look at it. But, I mean, like I said, very dominant, very easy, very good run defense. I mean, the dude definitely deserves credit for finding it. So if you have, I definitely recommend going and seeing how he stops all of the runs. You can, go to his Twitch and sub to him that way, and he'll be able to send you an ebook and all that stuff. And I believe it's just BG Fam is his Twitch. So basically, those are the styles of run defense. It's really up to you how you want to play. I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to play, personally. I do think, however, that you need to pay attention to situation and down and distance, right? Like, if you're in a close game, you can't afford to be giving up a crib shot. At the same time, say you have a 7-point lead, you're able to sit in the bend but don't break style of defense to where you can let them take 3 yards up and down the field, because eventually they're going to get shedded. Eventually they're going to get in that 4th down scenario, and that's when you can then amp up your pressure against the run. So like I said, hopefully I hit on enough stuff for you guys to understand how to pretty much stop all the runs in the game. Like against the wing stuff, I definitely recommend the cover 4 drop. Against I form, you can stop that at a 3-4 odd. You can stop it at a 3-4 or 3-3-5 out of nickel 3-3-5, and then big nickel over G is solid run defense as well. So you have multiple different options. You have ways to manually blow up the runs. You have ways to get the computer to manually blow up the run. It's just up to you to decide which one you like best and when to use each one. So hopefully this helps you guys. I know it's been a long video, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll try to answer everything that you guys have.